ESBR Boxing. We're back, myself and Paul Kelly. We are here together. That means one thing, it means preview mode. But before we get to that, I've got a public service announcement, and that is, lads, please like and subscribe to the channel and check out all the channel, obviously all the other content we've got coming, which is going to be interesting and engaging and of benefit for you to do so. But Paul, thank you very much for joining me. We are here obviously in preview. Our usual guys are preview mode, and we're here previewing the big boys today, the heavyweight fight that's taking place on the undercard of Madrimov Crawford. We are talking about, of course, Martin Bakole versus Jared Anderson. Obviously, you know, as I said, two big boys, two guys, I suppose, the division that really need a couple of step-out fights, I suppose, really, both in the ascendancy for both, you know, I suppose, valuing this fight for very, very different reasons. As we like to do, Paul, we like to get straight into it, don't we, really? We don't need to mention too much about Bakole. Everyone knows Martin Bakole. Obviously, Billy Nelson, friend of the show, friend of yours as well, Paul, I believe. And obviously, Jared Anderson is obviously a prospect rising through US boxing and now onto the global scene as well. But the question I want to ask you, actually, and we're going to pick this up first, is about Jared Anderson, Paul. So Jared Anderson, when it comes to his fight, he's got a victory over Charles Martin. People obviously know about that. Fought Jerry Forrest as well. But the question I want to ask you is, at 17-0 and at 24 years old, is Jared Anderson, Paul, the future of the heavyweight division? Can he dominate? How far can he go? Tell me, Paul, please.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's a really good fight, actually. I'm really looking forward to this one. But to answer your question before we come on to the fight itself, maybe, I think it's fair to say, you know, he's only 24 years old, as you mentioned, 17-0 with 15 KOs. He was, 14, 15-0 with all KOs at one stage there until his last few. He's gone the distance for a couple of times, but against Martin and Charles Martin and Riyad Mary. But yeah, I think Jared Anderson, I think it's fair to say that right now, when you look at a kind of a future crop, you know, younger fighters, that he's definitely one of the names that you would be talking about first and foremost. Was obviously still young. Had a loss or two in his record, but he's coming again. You know, people, even if he was to lose to Joshua, still consider quite young. He's probably one of the future of the division, if not the present. You know, kind of hanging about in those upper echelons of the heavyweight division. Jared Anderson's another one, and definitely up there. You've got Jalalov, you know, who seems to, you know, it's kind of we're kind of waiting for him to come out and almost get a statement win and throw himself into the world scene. Even younger, you've got, you know, really young fighters such as Moses Itauma, who's only 18, 19 from the UK, fighting Marius Vac very soon. You know, expected to win that, but plenty of years left until he's probably up near in the world scene. So I'd say, you know, off the top of my head, Anderson probably is. I'd say is the future of the heavyweight division. There's a few other names in there. I'm not going to sit here and say that he is the only name that could dominate at heavyweight in the future, but he's certainly one of the ones that come to mind, mate. Yeah, what about yourself? Do you agree with me?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Paul. Actually, there's some interesting names you mentioned there. There's a name you've avoided mentioning, and obviously another friend of the show, I suppose, and someone that our friend Owen McKendry is particularly fond of. And that is Johnny Fisher, another name obviously in the heavyweight scene. But let me just pick you up a bit on what you mentioned there, Daniel Dubois. The Daniel Dubois is the name for me that also stands out, as you know, being he's 26 years old. Obviously, Anderson's 24. If you were to put those guys in with each other, maybe in the next year, would you fancy Dubois there, or do you think Anderson? Which way you lean on that one, Paul? If you had to make a sort of snap prediction, I'll put you on a spot here. We've not discussed this before. Which way would you lean on that one?
Mate, I'm gonna go Dubois. If he could get through the early rounds against Anderson, and just which we can do what he did against Hrgovic, just take punishment for a few rounds, just, you know, use your face as your guard. If he can get through that, I think he would get to him. I think he's shown that he can do that now, Dubois. And, you know, we haven't really seen what Anderson's like when he gets it put on him, and Dubois would certainly put it on him. So it wouldn't surprise me if I was wrong, like, but just going on what I've seen so far, I would be backing Dubois there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Actually, we touched on this briefly in the Big Fight breakdown, and I agree. I think Dubois at this stage of his career has a bit too much. He's been in with some great names as well, so I think just maybe a little bit too much. I think he would get to. He's decided to add, I think, a bit, you know, a bit more boxing knowledge and a bit more sort of tactical nous to his sort of, you know, his sort of bludgeoning, which he was doing, you know, under Frank Warren. So I think actually he would have the kind of skill set to break down and beat Jared Anderson. But interesting fight if it happens. But Paul, let's touch on Martin Bakole. As I said, you know, Martin Bakole is a guy who's been championed by Billy Nelson for some time now, and I think is a very, very good, very credible heavyweight. Just needs some of those names on his record. We've also got the very, very good victory over Tony Yoka, big underdog in that fight. The loss, obviously, to Hunter has a stoppage win over Marius Watch, which is not easy to come by. And obviously, last time out, He beat Carlos Takam. He's got wins over Kuzmin on there as well. So kind of some all right names, but not kind of that sort of marquee name, I suppose, that you stand out with. Let me just ask you, I suppose, just for your comments on how highly you rate Martin Bakole. Do you see him as a top 10 fighter, top 10 heavyweight? Do you think he can win here? And would you also consider it an upset worry to win without giving away your prediction? And we're talking generalities, Paul.
Yeah, mate, I think it's a really interesting one. I think that it's hard to gauge where Bakole is at for me because he's not the most active of heavyweights. Um, obviously, this fight's coming not only a few months after his one against Takam, as you mentioned, so it's good to see him active again. But there was long periods of time where he wasn't fighting for a while. Then he was coming back and he was looking maybe just kind of basic enough. But then but then you're hearing all these rumors about. I know there's the infamous one that Billy Nelson and Sam Jones always go back and forth with on Twitter. All about about Bakole being the undisputed sparring champion of the world, supposedly knocking Usyk out or down or whatever it was. And Bakole is Billy Nelson, having spoken to him, is adamant that happened. And I suppose at the end of the day, why would he lie about something like that? So you never know. But then we haven't seen it properly on the professional stage, under the lights, in the ring, on the big shows. So we're still yet to see that. But I definitely think he's capable of winning this fight against Jared Anderson. Martin Bakole on his best night is a nightmare for everyone. He's enormous. He's massive. He's heavy. He's powerful. He can box. He is a bit of a nightmare, I think. He's kind of got the size advantage here as well. Obviously, kind of the despite only having 4 more fights than Anderson, you'd say that all of the experience is with Bakole as well. So yeah, I think he's more than capable of pulling off the upset. I imagine it would be an upset because I haven't really looked, but I think Anderson would be a favourite here, and I can see why. But don't get me wrong, I reckon there'll be quite a lot of boxing fans who will be backing Martin Bakole to win here, and who maybe wouldn't see it as an upset. I maybe wouldn't see it as a huge upset if he were to win. But yes, without giving my prediction away, what do you think as well, mate?
Yeah, I actually rate Martin Bakole highly. I've had Martin Bakole as a top 10 heavyweight. Like you say, big guy, 6'6", heavy, strong, good boxing ability. I think we saw that against Joker as well. So yeah, for me, I think I definitely rate him top 10, but he needs names before he starts pushing towards anywhere near the top 5, frankly. The top sort of 3, 4 are locked on. And then, I'd probably back him, to beat like Joseph Parker, to be honest, if they were to fight, but I can't sit there and rank him above Joseph Parker, because I think of the names that Parker's beaten, especially recently. Zhang's another one. Would I back Bakole in that fight? 50-50 fight for me, he could win it, but I can't put him above people like Zhang just based on the opponents he doesn't have on his record. So do rate him, but again, he needs some step out wins. I agree with you, like on the thing you were saying about the favourites. I think he'll be an underdog here. You look at location as well. Obviously, it's in the US. Anderson, a lot of backing, a lot of sort of momentum as well behind him. It wouldn't necessarily be an upset for me if Bakole won. It really wouldn't be an upset for me. I'm very, very surprised Jared Anderson's taken Martin Bakole, frankly. Yeah. It's a fight that I don't think he should really necessarily take at this stage. I don't think he needs to take it. And you don't see a lot of other people sticking their hands up to fight Martin Bakole either. So yeah, I'm surprised he's taking it. It wouldn't necessarily be an upset for me. But we are coming to predictions, Paul. Now, I've given away my prediction on the big fight breakdown, which you can look at. We'll see whether I'll stick or twist in a minute. But we're coming to you first, Paul. Who wins this fight? We're in LA. It's going to be, the 3rd of August. Who's going to win, Paul? Which out of these big boys, Anderson or Bakole? Talk to me. How they win and how?
I can see Billy Nelson's ears perking up now, waiting to shout abuse at you or I if we're backing Jared Anderson. But I am not. I'm backing Martin Bakole to win this fight, mate. I think he's really, really capable of winning this. Could be massively wrong here, but I've seen Jared Anderson's look brilliant, almost perfect, but then there were some chinks in the armor against Charles Martin, maybe. And I back Martin Bakole to stop Charles Martin, something that Jared Anderson couldn't do. So I'm going Martin Bakole, mate. I'm going late stoppage, mid to late stoppage as well. Wouldn't surprise me if it was points, but if gun to my head, I'm saying mid kind of rounds stoppage for big Martin Bakole. What about you?
Well, Paul, that's brilliant that you said that, because one of us has got Billy happy. I've actually on the big fight breakdown said Anderson. I'm going to stick, but the reason I don't think it'd be surprised if Bakole won at all, and I think Bakole's very capable, and I think he might actually win this fight. But the reason I'm packing Anderson is because I'm going to look at location, I'm looking at money, I'm looking at promise. I think you're definitely right. There has been some chinks in his armor, and he's not looked as good recently as the sort of early record suggested. I mean, granted, obviously the opponents have got better, so it's harder to look as good, but there has been some chinks there. But I think I've got a feeling he can stop. Bakole can stop him, and he can stop Bakole. But I've just got a feeling Anderson's going to win this on points. I think he might take a home decision. I really do. I can see him maybe being a contentious one, but I just think if it comes to the scorecards, if Bakole doesn't stop him, I think Bakole will get done on the card. So I'm going to go Anderson points for me. But I hope I'm wrong, Paul. I really do hope I'm wrong. I hope Bakole gets it done. Paul, thank you very much. From those two big boys to us two big boys, signing off here and saying, thanks again for watching. Obviously, again, like and subscribe. We've got a big fight breakdown for this fight, which I mentioned. Ruiz Jr. obviously versus Miller as well, and obviously Crawford. All those sort of big names and big fight breakdowns coming up, interviews, reviews, and everything of that nature as well. So thank you very much for joining us now and for checking those out in the future. Paul, as always, thanks for joining me. And guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.